Hey, this is Chandler with the Grappling Conjecture, and today I want to talk about CJI. In the last video I talked about the under 80 kilogram division of CJI, but now let's talk about the over 80 kilogram division, the big boys. As I did last time, I'm going to go over all the names and then talk about the strengths and weaknesses of each, so let's get into it. For the over 80 kilogram division, our competitors are Nicky Rod, João Gabriel Rocha, Victor Hugo, Mason Fowler, Felipe Andrew, Owen Livesey, Ignacio Santos, Adam Bradley, Max Jimenez, although it says Mex, it is Max, Luke Rockhold, William Tackett, Pat Downey, Kyle Boehm, Pedro Alex, Muhammad Ali, and Daniel Kerkvliet. We have lots of interesting names. Some of them are famous in the grappling community, some of them not so much. Some of them are some older people you may not be familiar with, and some of them are even from wrestling. So we have a large variety, and I think this will be a good event, and I'm really looking forward to who's winning. But now let's break it down. Again, I've divided everyone into 4 categories, and I've color-coded it here. And we're going to talk about red first. These are the people I'm going to call the wrestlers or top players or stand-up guys, whatever you want to call them. These are people who I think are going to want to stand up, and they would be happy just doing all standing and not doing too much on the ground. These people definitely do not want to be on their back, and if they do get put on their back for extended periods, they're probably going to lose the round or the match. The first person we'll talk about here is Nicky Rod. Nicky Rod, I think, is a little bit more well-rounded than some of the other people. We have seen him do a little bit off his back, but if we're being honest, most of the time when he goes down to his back, he's usually trying to wrestle up. He's probably going to try to get on top and stay on top. He might have some trouble with some of the other wrestlers. If he can't do that, we'll see how good his jiu-jitsu is at just, playing off his back. But in general, if he gets people down, I'm not too sure that too many people here can stop his body lock pass. He might be one of the favorites to win this. I would at least put him in the top 3 people to win this right here. So that's Nicky Rod. Next up, we have Owen Livesey. Owen Livesey is a judo black belt from the UK, and his judo is very good. He's very good with various foot sweeps, hip throws, and things like fireman's carries. I think when it comes to that, he can take almost anyone down. I think one of his problems, however, is that when he gets people down, he sometimes just lets them back up, and also he doesn't have too much in the way of submission threats. He's also up against some other people who are significantly bigger, stronger, and have good wrestling backgrounds. He may be in a bit of trouble here. I could see him perhaps losing the stand-up, and that's going to be his ticket out of there. Or he might also be subbed by some of the more submission-oriented people. He wouldn't be my pick to win the whole thing. If they have a best takedown bonus, I think he definitely is in the running for that. I think he could definitely do that, though. After that, we have Pat Downey. Pat Downey is an outstanding wrestler, maybe the best wrestler in this division. He's very technical, and he's actually very good at upper body clinch wrestling. If he gets anyone in here in the clinch, it could be really rough for them. On top of his strength, he also has very good technique, and the rule set actually kind of suits him because of the fact that they have those pit walls. He can easily push people into the pit walls. If you don't know this, he's actually wrestled Nicky Rod. After Nicky Rod came in second in ADCC, they put together a wrestling match between Pat Downey and Nicky Rod, and Pat Downey was able to tech him in about 2 minutes or so. He teched him really, really fast. And lots of them were push-outs, so if they clinch up, Nicky Rod could be in trouble. And I think not only him, but anybody could be in trouble. The problem is his jiu-jitsu may not be as sound as some of the other people in here. He's been doing jiu-jitsu for a while now at this point. However, he's done ADCC trials, I think twice, and he's lost both times. I think one time at least was to leg lock, so he'll have to be careful. He's not my pick to win this, but I think he can definitely beat some people. So he's also someone who might be able to win that best takedown of the match. Finally, we have Daniel Kerkvliet. I'm sorry if I mispronounced his name. He's someone I'm not too familiar with as far as BJJ goes. I believe he has done that before, at least to a small extent, but he's mostly a wrestler. He's a Penn State wrestler, and he's the current heavyweight NCAA champion, D1 champion. This guy is very, very good. I believe he's also about like 280 pounds. And if you look at him, he doesn't look 280 pounds. He looks like, oh, he's kind of smaller, but this guy is huge and he is ripped and just strong and fast. He is probably the best wrestler here. I mean, you could flip a coin saying, is it him or Pat Downey? Although I think Downey hasn't won an NCAA championship. But Daniel Kerkvliet is much, much bigger. I think anybody who stands up with him is going to have a major problem, and I don't know what they're going to do. However, on the ground, that's a different story. I think he might be a blue belt in BJJ, but I don't know how much that's going to help him against somebody who's trying to leg lock him or something like that. So he's definitely going to have to be careful, because if someone, tries to take him down and he messes up and they end up taking his back, it's probably over. But I definitely want to see what he's going to do. Somebody that big and athletic can always cause people problems. Next, the group we have is in light blue. Let's call them the tacticians or the strategists. These are the people that I think are probably going to try to steal rounds or wait for their opponent to make a mistake and then pounce on it. I think these people might get called for stalling, and in general, although I do think they will want to play from top position, I think they will pull guard if they feel like they're not going to get the better of someone on the feet, or if they think it'll just play to their advantage and they can get a quick score off it. So first we have João Gabriel Rocha. He's very big and he's a veteran of the sport. He's been doing it for a long time and he has lots of those veteran moves. He's very big, he can wrestle a bit, and he has a fairly good guard game. Overall, he's fairly well-rounded. He's not the biggest submission threat, but he can submit you if you make a mistake. Not only that, I think he's probably about like 260, 270 pounds, so anyone that size that can move well is going to be a problem. He definitely could submit some of the wrestlers if they aren't careful, and I think people kind of underestimate him because in the pictures you don't realize how big he is, but when you actually see him next to people, you realize that, whoa, this dude is big, strong, and has decent jiu-jitsu. I think the downside of João Gabriel is sometimes he's a little bit passive, and sometimes just fight IQ-wise it doesn't come together. He has been DQ'd at IBJJF for passivity, and it's like, if you're getting DQ'd for passivity in IBJJF, that's crazy. Also, he just wants people like he's doing well, and then all of a sudden things just kind of fall apart and he can lose. So because of that, I'm not picking him to win this, although I think he definitely will cause some people trouble, and he could definitely upset people. Next, we have Inácio Santos. He's also someone who's very, very good. I believe he won the Brazilian trials this year at heavyweight, so it shows he actually can, take out some of the bigger people. He's a little bit of an undersized heavyweight, if I should say that. He's not so tall. He's a little bit short and a little bit, he's a thick boy. So I think he's carrying some extra pounds, but he moves really well. He actually moves like somebody a bit smaller than him. So he might be able to beat people just because of that. They won't be used to this, and his physique, you think he was moving slowly, but he's actually pretty quick and nimble. I think he can, get past some people, and I think he might cause some people some trouble. I think on the downside, I've seen him get triangled and leg locked by people smaller than him when I was looking up some of his matches. So I don't know how good his submission defense is, so that would be a worry. And just due to the fact that lots of the people in here are bigger than him, lots of the people will be able to out wrestle him, I think he might get into some problems. He's not my pick, but I think he definitely can upset some people and, pull off some upsets. Next, we have Max Jimenez. Max Jimenez is a very, very solid competitor. He competed at the last ADCC and beat Orlando Sanchez. He's mostly a top player, but I have seen him do a little bit of guard stuff too. He has good pressure from the top and actually pretty decent wrestling. I think the most recent win he had was against Big Dan. He looked really good in that he's able to pass his guard multiple times. And I think if he gets on top of people, I think lots of people are in trouble. He's not particularly submission prone either. He has fairly good submission defense, and in general can just stay heavy on people and kind of grind them out. He's not my favorite in this just because although he's big, I think there's some other people that have maybe a slight speed advantage on him. Other people have a strength advantage. Other people have a submission advantage. He's good, but I think that other people will be able to beat him in certain areas, and I'm not sure if he'll be able to catch up with them. On top of that, I believe he's been focused on MMA, so that might kind of change his focus a bit. So we'll see. He's not my favorite to win this, but I think he can definitely go farther than I think some people are giving him credit for. Next up, we have Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali is a former gi world champion and ADCC veteran. Muhammad Ali's very good. He's tall, he's very muscular, and he's extremely explosive. He doesn't have a wrestling background, but he actually has shown some good wrestling. On top of that, he's been training for MMA for a while now, so I'm sure his wrestling has improved by leaps and bounds since we last saw him. On the downside, I think that Muhammad Ali hasn't competed in about maybe 3 years now, so I kind of wonder how good is he right now. On top of that, his last match he lost, and it was a gi match. I'm not sure if he's done any no-gi since he lost to Nicky Rod at ADCC. That's not good. Although he has been training no-gi, I'm sure, for MMA, I don't know how that's going to translate, that MMA training. On top of that, I don't know what size he's going to come in, and I don't know how much he's been training no-gi, so we'll see. I'm not going to pick him just because of inactivity. Next person we have is Pedro Alex, or Bom Bom. He's just huge, really big, really cut up, muscular, explosive, etc. The things I said about Muhammad Ali could probably be said about Pedro Alex. He's not a world champion, but he's gotten very close. He's been doing more no-gi recently, and I think he's really good, and I think he can definitely cause lots of people problems just because of his size, explosiveness, and just overall decent jiu-jitsu. One problem I think he's going to have is he seems a little bit maybe submission prone from what I've seen, and if he's not on top, his bottom game isn't quite as good, so he might have to be worried, especially with lots of these people like Nicky Rod, Daniel Kerkvliet, etc. Lots of these people can probably take him down, and once he's on his back, he might be in trouble. I think he might be able to surprise some people, depending on how his training's been going. He might have added something new there and surprised people, but I'm still not picking him as the winner. Next, in purple, we have 3 people, and I'll call these the kind of versatile guys, or the jacks of all trades. These are people that can kind of do everything. They can wrestle, they can also pull guard, they can submit you, and they can really just kind of change their game depending on the person and kind of beat you any place. So the first person we have here is Victor Hugo. Victor Hugo is a no-gi world champion, gi world champion, you name it, he's done it. He's looked very good in the last few years and continues to improve. I think he's been doing a weight routine in the last year or so, and it seems to be paying off. On top of that, he's extremely big. I think he's maybe 260 pounds or so, so he's one of the biggest competitors here. And surprisingly, he has a very, very good guard. He has a good flexible guard that's extremely difficult to pass. On top of that, he has a very good gas tank. I don't think I've ever seen him super gassed out. And he can submit people as well. He can get on top of you and smash you, or he can submit you from the bottom. Very versatile and just an overall very good game. There are times when I've seen him kind of, just doesn't seem like his day and he can't get things going. And if that happens here, he's not going to win it. But if he's on 100%, I think he can definitely win, and I think he is one of the favorites to win this. For me, I think it's probably between him and Nicky Rod. One of them will probably win, in my opinion, but let me know who you think down below. Next up, we have Adam Bradley. Adam Bradley is an Atos black belt, but recently I believe he's training with the B team, I believe, and he's going to be here in CJI. He was robbed in his ADCC trials. Many people thought he should have won the ADC North American trials, but due to kind of a reffing error or judging error, he didn't get that. He was invited to ADCC sometimes afterwards, after lots of people dropped out, and he went into ADCC and then quickly came out, and now he's in CJI. He's also someone who can play top or bottom, and he's mostly known for his escapes. He's very, very hard to put away, so I think even some of these bigger guys are going to have a problem finishing him. He's not my pick for winning this just because I don't know if his wrestling, guard, or submissions are good enough to get him all the way through the 4 matches, but I think he can probably give people some trouble here. So he's not my favorite, but I think he can probably put on some interesting matches, and I'm interested to see how he escapes some of these big guys. Lastly, we have Luke Rockhold. Luke Rockhold is a former UFC champion, but he's actually known to have very, very good jiu-jitsu. I believe Buchecha said he's one of his hardest training partners when it comes to submissions and jiu-jitsu. Craig Jones also said he submitted him. Nicky Rod said, are you surprised how good Luke Rockhold is? So he's kind of one of those gym killers. So this will really show if he can take those gym skills and bring it into the competition here. He is fairly big, but he's probably a little bit undersized here. He might have some problems with some of these wrestlers and just some of these people that do jiu-jitsu full-time. He does seem to have a really submission-oriented game, but I'm not sure if that's enough for him to pull it through here. I think he might surprise people, but I don't think he's making it to the finals. So I think watch for Luke Rockhold, but I'm not expecting to see him win it all. Finally, let's get into the people in yellow. I'm going to call this group the guard players. Now, these people can play other positions besides guard. They're not just strictly guard players, but in this competition, I believe all these players are probably going to pull guard. So the first person we have is Mason Fowler. Mason Fowler is a fairly big guy, but he's still a bit undersized for this. Mason Fowler, however, is very strong, and he has a very good guard. He has a good top game as well, but he's surprisingly good from the bottom, and you'd think a shorter, stocky guy wouldn't have that much flexibility, but he is actually fairly flexible and probably one of the best rubber guard players in the world right now. He could definitely do some damage from bottom, and I think he'll probably surprise lots of people with his just sheer versatility, flexibility, and attacks. Breaking news, as I was making this video, it seems like Mason Fowler dropped out of CJI. So we won't be seeing him in there. It was announced on Craig Jones' Instagram. I don't know what happened, but it looks like he's going to be replaced by somebody. We don't know who it is yet, but the person that's going to be winning this won't be Mason Fowler. Next we have Felipe Andrew. Felipe Andrew is a gi world champion, and his specialty is probably triangles and the ankle lock. Both those things translate very well to no gi, so I think he definitely can do some damage here. One of the things that I think might go against him is the fact that he's not as big and physical as some of the other people here. He doesn't have a good stand-up game, and he has been susceptible to leg locks himself before. He's been heel hooked by William Tackett in probably less than a minute in one of his only no-gi outings. He doesn't have that much experience in no-gi, so I don't know how well he's going to do here, but he definitely does pose a real submission threat. He's very, very dangerous off his back, and I think that's where he's going to work from, so he could upset some people. He's not my choice for the winner here, but I think he can do some damage. Next up, we have William Tackett. William Tackett won the North American trials this time. He's very, very good, and recently he's gained weight. This year he tried the 88 kilogram division. He lost the first time he did trials, but the second time he actually won. He had quite a few subs, and I think that's one of his main strengths. He's a submission hunter, and he's very, very good with pretty much any submission. We've seen him do, front headlock type subs. He can get on people's backs, subs them there. He has very, very good leg locks, and just overall a very impressive game everywhere. If he's on top of you, it's a problem. If he's on the bottom, it's a problem. He can really attack from everywhere, and he's really versatile. One of his problems might be is he's just kind of too small for this division. He has good submission skills, but against all these people, I'm not sure if he can get through 4 matches just due to his size. I imagine he's probably going to get beat up in every match, and I believe he's the smallest person in this whole over 80 kilogram tournament. In my opinion, he probably should be in the under 80 kilogram, but I think due to his brother, he wanted to do the over 80 kilograms. So we'll see how he does, and I think he can definitely beat some people just due to his overall submission skills, but he's not my pick to win it. Finally, we have Kyle Boehm. Kyle Boehm is a very, very big competitor. He's very strong, in good shape, and unlike some of the other people that are in good shape, he doesn't really play top that much. He's more of a guard player, and he has very, very good leg locks. He's aggressive, and he's a submission hunter. He's good on the legs, and he's good from the back. I think he can really surprise people. People that big usually don't have good guards, but he does, and he's good at leg locks. I think he could probably take out lots of the wrestlers in here if he gets a good draw. He's not my favorite to win everything, but I think with a good draw, he can get fairly deep into the tournament. It just depends on who he gets in here. There's some people where I think, this person will defend his leg locks and maybe will be able to outpoint him, but there's other people I think he'll definitely catch. So, not my pick, but I think he can do better than people might give him credit for. And that's the division. It's a little bit hard for me to say who has the real advantage here. Normally, I would think that maybe the wrestlers do, due to this pit they're going to have, or I guess the alley they're calling it. However, I think some of the wrestlers might be a little bit afraid to engage on the ground, and one of the rules they're going to have is you have to engage or you'll be penalized. I think some of the wrestlers could get hit with that, and it could cause them problems. And same thing with the people in light blue here. This kind of strategy may not work well for this tournament just because of that. Also, just getting pushed into the wall or something, I'm afraid, they might let themselves get pushed in that wall, fall down, and lose a round because of that, or just be penalized for inactivity. The guard players do have a chance, but I think in a big man's division, it's hard to really, bet on guard players. On top of that, lots of the guard players are a bit undersized, so I think that'll also play a factor in this. The people in purple seem the most versatile, and I think they might just take it. They might be able to put together sweeps, takedowns, passes, and submissions to just give themselves the nod. Since this tournament doesn't technically have points, it's just going to be on a 10-point must system, it might be a little bit easier for the people that are more active. So I think any of these people really could win depending on how active they are and how well they can stay up submissions. My pick is going to be either Victor Hugo or Nicky Rod. I think they're the two front runners in here, and it'll kind of depend on the draw they have. I think that Nicky Rod might have some trouble with some of the wrestlers, and Victor Hugo, I don't know. Some of the strategists, some of the people in blue might give him trouble. They might be able to, kind of stall him out or something, but we'll see. I want you to tell me down below, who do you have? After you do that, be sure to subscribe. I'm going to try to come up with more videos on this, especially going over the rule set and going a little bit more in depth on that. And I will be covering this and doing videos on CJI when it happens. I probably said CGI. Everybody's saying CGI. I saw the Tackett saying that in a video. CJI. So I'll be doing that. So make sure you subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. Until next time, see you.